A very good evening to you, and many thanks for finding time to tuning in to CAC TV on Power Brief even tonight as we look into the political happenings in the country. The day has been long and it's still ongoing, especially with the by-elections at the Kiambaa constituency and also at Muguga ward. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Philip Mwangale, who is a leadership and a governance consultant. We are also joined by Mr. Amos Kokech, who is a youth leader within Homa Bay County. We are also joined by Mr. Frederick Sasia, who is a policy and a political analyst. My name is Cornelius Omuse, and I welcome you in this conversation, which is also live on our Facebook page, CAC TV Kenya. YouTube is CAC TV Kenya. Keep it here to the end as we look into the political happenings, what are the probable solutions and also the interventions that come from all stakeholders, because our country is one and it needs all of us. Gentlemen, welcome to Power Brief tonight.
Thank you.
Philip, it's been a while. Also, Mr. Amos Sasia was here just the other day. Yeah. But I see you look focused and also sharp. So we have a shorter time, depending on how we're going to handle it. It's a political night, indeed. But actually, before that, today's dailies, the one that I'm holding here, and even the other papers, have had news running about children being killed mercilessly. Mr. Milimo was just nabbed the other day, and he was giving some revelations. And seems this thing is growing and growing on a daily basis. So briefly, we wish to establish the motive. What could be leading these people to do this thing? And also, what is it that the law can do, and also the society, to see that it's actually brought to an end? Beginning from you, Mr. Phil.
Thank you for having me. It's unfortunate what we are seeing, and this has been going on. I think in the last 1 year, cases of child abductions and murders have really been on the rise, and it is a worrying trend. And to see individuals confessing to these murders, and not just one, but several murders, an individual confessing to killing several children, is something that should concern the whole country. The other bit that is also worrying is that, like the individual who was arraigned in court today, saying that they were acting on instructions from somebody else who is not yet in police custody. That should really concern us. And my plea to the investigating authorities would be to get to the bottom of the matter, not just looking at the actual crime itself, the act, but looking at the psyche of these individuals. We should have a psychoanalysis of these individuals who are committing such heinous crimes. The guy who was arraigned in Nairobi is not the only one. There was one who led police to several sites where he had disposed of the children's bodies in Moy's Bridge and areas around Kitale. So we should be going beyond the crime itself. And I think the issue of motive should really be on the top of the investigating authorities' agenda. The other bit that is also important is society in general. Because these people have been living in particular communities. There are people who have been their neighbors. And if you dig down, you would discover that some people may have suspected something about these individuals, but did not speak out. And that goes for so many other cases that we've had around the country this year. I mean, you hear somebody arrested, and the neighbors come out and say, oh, by the way, alikuwa nakaa mtu haeleweki, but they didn't speak out. So the issue of community policing and society really doing the parenting, because I think we have lost that bit where society is actually parenting children and not just leaving it to schools, teachers, and individual parents.
Many thanks, Mr. Mwangale, for that submission. We actually wanted to look at it especially from a legal angle. What is it that can be done? But you've exhausted everything, especially when you look at it, Mr. Sasia, the society, the non-governmental organizations, the church also, and the clergy, everyone coming on board to see that they offer solutions into these matters. Straight away, we move to Kiambaa constituency, where we are having the counting of votes taking place right now. And also at Muguga ward, our people on the ground, within time, as we shall be continuing with our show, will be able to tell us actually what is happening there. But in the morning, Mr. Sasia, we saw a lot of commotion that is between the supporters of the United Democratic Alliance Party and majority leader in the National Assembly, that is Mr. Amos Kimunya. They were actually calling him out of that place, talking of he's not an agent, though he was claiming that he's an agent, and it really almost brought a situation into a standstill. If such a things are being witnessed right now within by-election, what does it portend or portray for a general election that is actually 12 months away from now?
Thank you very much for this evening, first for hosting us. Then in regard to Kiambe and the happenings of our politics and the by-elections, it is a dangerous trend that we are seeing politicians now really not regarding the constitution and going ahead to spearhead a very dangerous rhetoric that might lead us to the incidences that happened like in the year 2007. So as a country, one, we need really to check the kind of rhetoric politicians are spreading. Then as a society, we also need to check the kind of rhetoric we want to consume. You know, it takes one to listen, then go ahead to act. So if we are able to monitor ourselves, if you are able, like a politician or a leader, to monitor whatever you speak, and whoever you are being spoken to, if you are able to save what you want to hear and what you want to act upon, then that will bring a balanced society that will have a lot of peace. But again, to our security organs, you know, the act of having a peaceful election or a peaceful country over a period of election, it is not really during the election day. These actions or mitigating factors starts way before the election. You know, we are living in an era where social media has taken over. So if we have a security system that does not monitor our online behaviors and online life, then you leave the society at the mercy of nothing but the fate that will come out of the political rhetoric. Because, you know, you go online and you see people posting things that will really easily put the country into a very worrying state, but there is no action that is taken. I tend to believe that we need to form a special contingent to be looking at the contents online, especially during electioneering process and those periods, and also to monitor keenly the movements of politicians. I also believe in all the elections, the by-elections, the major elections that we are going to have in the year 2022, let us remove the key players in the politics, like the politician. Let us remove them from the picture. Let us have neutral agents. You know, an agent who will not have this personal motive towards whatever is happening. But when we allow politicians now to come in, then we see a lot of youth being geared, being motivated to fight. And you know, those things are not good for the society. Then we also need to sensitize the youth group, because in most cases, these things do not start with the politicians. They come and incite the youth group. Then once they incite us, we are the people who starts the skirmishes. So it is very important that we sensitize. We have the government organs, the non-governmental organs, the society, the clergy, sensitize this sensitive group that we're calling youth to at least understand that our political process is not the start and end of everything, but we just need to pass over it, vote, and go home and wait for the results. Otherwise, putting yourself in a situation whereby you want to fight for people and even fight to an extent of losing life, then that puts the country in a very dangerous situation.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Amos,
Yes.
this was a situation in one constituency out of 290 constituencies that will be having the elections next year. And you realize that being a one constituency, actually the focus of many people are there. That's why even here tonight, we are here trying to focus there. But now look at a situation where it will be 290 constituencies where everyone will not have that monopoly or the privilege to have a look in all the 290 constituencies. What do you think will help towards seeing that even though there is no people, observers all over the 290 constituencies, we are having a free and a fair election?
Thank you very much, Mr. Omuse, for, first of all, for hosting us. Direct to your question, I want to concur with my two friends here that we are still behind in terms of our preparedness towards the election. And if you look at what is happening in the by-election that we have, that can tell you very well that even when we get to 2022, we will have chaos within our elections, if at all we don't really implement the laws as they are. Because if you look at the Election Act, prescribe the manner in which an election should be held to ensure that there is peaceful election. But actually, that law has not been implemented. And actually, if I look at even the previous by-election that have been done everywhere, as I've been a politician, I've been part of politics, and I can tell even in those locals, there are kills where there is voter bribery, there are kills, there are people fighting, even in those small areas, leave alone even the one that now we are focusing, which is a single one, that everybody's eyes are there. That tells you if this one is everybody's eyes are there, then that means even the same things are happening to those very many that nobody is able to bring onto light. So as a country, first of all, we must condemn any act of violence with the strongest word possible for us to have a country after election, because we will definitely have a country after election. But again, the young people have been misused, have been continually allowing themselves to be used by politicians.
We'll be coming into that topic, especially of the young people.
Okay.
Mr. Philip, there is a time Honorable Duale, the then majority leader, came up with a social media bill which really underwent a lot of opposition from different quarters. And looking at what was happening yesterday and probably even on the course of the day, a lot of people were publishing things on the social media. In the morning, Moses Kuria, the member for Gatundu South constituency, posted an allegation that IBC officials, some of them are conducting voting in some plantation there in Kiambaa. Then shortly, the IBC gave a remark that this is a car that is helping in actually solving technical problems. So you realize by the time Moses Kuria posted that matter, and then by the time IBC came to actually correct whatever he had posted, and then the election continues, don't you think such a things can make a country burn unless they're checked? Because most probably after the elections, he will be free, walking and doing his own things.
You're right, and it's a cocktail of issues. It's not just politicians making, those inflammatory utterances on social media and elsewhere. I think we have that, and we also have the role of the IBC. In my opinion, IBC has totally failed to run credible and fair elections. I don't know whether they misunderstand what that commission is about. In my estimation, I think the way IBC is being run, they're running it as an independent election day and boundaries commission. Because if it was supposed to be an electoral commission, then your concentration is through the whole process. You must look at the campaign period, because it is their responsibility to monitor campaign finances.
Before I lose
example,
you, Wakili,
yes.
Is it the responsibility of the IBC to go and arrest the likes of Moses Kuria with the allegations that
I can tell you for a fact, the Elections Act and the IBC Act gives the commission powers to order the arrest of these people. They might not do the arrest themselves, but the commission can order the arrest of
to ensure that it has been.
Yes, and just by giving an order to the Inspector General or whatever authority is there, arresting authority is there, to make or conduct an arrest. They have that power, but we have never seen them exercise that power at all. Even in instances where you have commissioners in the same environment as politicians who are misbehaving, politicians who are flouting the election laws, they have not done anything, and they will do nothing. I mentioned, I think the last time we were here, we were talking about Machakos. And I mentioned that IBC will do nothing about the people who flouted election laws in Machakos. They will do nothing about this election. They will probably do nothing about the 2022 election, because the people we have put in this commission are not up to the task. That is one. Number two, when it comes to politicians and the utterances they make, it is not true that we do not have the laws in place to govern online activity. I think in as much as I personally disagree with some provisions of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, I think we still have a framework in place, a legal framework in place. It might not be sufficient, but as it stands now, we are not even using what we have. We have a cybercrimes division within the DCI and the police structure, but they are only deployed when there is a political hand, informing their action. So if they're not working together with the IBC, I would love to see whether the IBC has a cyber division within that secretariat, working together with the Cohesion Commission, because these are commissions that should be working together, monitoring these utterances. But if we do not have people who understand their job, then I think it will be too much to require that they perform that job. Yes.
Thank you, Philip. Mr. Sasia, Philip has actually pointed out some of the weaknesses or the fertile grounds that has given politicians and a number of people that leeway to say anything and go away with it. And my concern, or the concern of any other person, because I posted it to Philip, and I said, suppose this was a general election, and then a vocal politician stands up and says that lorries with boxes, ballot boxes, have gone to a certain forest within the city, counting votes, and it's allied to Kokech, who is an opponent. Don't you think that can burn a country? One, he has said the weaknesses that are there, but don't you think that it is time to find solutions into this?
You see, definitely some utterances from leaders and politicians can easily burn a country, because these are people who enjoy a massive following. But on how we can mitigate on this, it is basically to implement the laws that are in place. That, just as my friend has said, we have the Election Act, and then we have so many other acts that support the IBC and the police and DCI to actually ensure that people who are participating in instigating a political crime or something are easily followed up. Because, we live in a country where we've put so many laws in place, but now you go to the part of how are we implementing them, then we are doing nothing about them. Because, we still have leaders who have done so big crime, suspects still standing in court, but they are still in the office. And you wonder, how do you want to fight these crimes? I want us to come to a place where IBC can easily lock someone out of an election, and not just anyone, but a very senior politician, and he stays out of the election because of the crime that was committed maybe some days ago or even towards the election day. But as long as you have an IBC that sits below the politicians, an IBC that fears to point out the real evils towards the elections and after elections, then we are living in a country that is so dangerous, because who will then referee the politicians? In a football match where the referee fails to foul those mistakes that happen with players, it might cause a fight within the players, and that can be mitigated. But then, if the referee continues to sleep, then that fight could go even to the fans. It could now be a big problem. So let us now mitigate first when it is too small. Let us block out these politicians who are used to starting election rhetoric that could easily bring the country into wars. Let us now bar them out. Let us go an extra mile past education levels, because we've somehow concentrated on checking on the education qualification and failing to check on the integrity part of it. If we are able to put the same effort we put in education to check on integrity, then we can have people who understand. But again, even if we have to check the politicians, let us now check also the masses. Let us empower the non-governmental organizations. Let us empower the clergy. Let us now, even at society level, even ourselves, let us try and educate people that politics is not something that comes to finish us. Actually, politics should be a good thing, because it should be used to install sober and good leaders in place. But for our situation is, we've allowed politics to be the reason to why we are fighting.
Thank you.
Not to the reason to our solution. So let us try and have a political system that can easily pick out those people who deserve to be leaders and separate those who now bring up the country into wars and post-election violence.
Thank you, Frederick. Now, we've had a look into the social, legal arrangements of how things are supposed to be done as far as elections are concerned. But again, we move down into the political arrangements. We've seen what has happened, or history informs us where we've been, where we are, and where we are headed to. Kenya has had a particular trend when it comes to voting and people making decisions. When you go to the Nyanza region of Kenya, they've been having a way on how they vote. When you go to the Rift Valley part of Kenya, they've been having a way on how they vote. When you go to the central part of Kenya, they've been having a way on how they've been voting. The voting patterns since multipartyism in Kenya, apart from Western Kenya, where Philip and Sasia come from, that has been a place that sometimes someone is vying from that place, but they'll end up voting another person. But a particular trend has been coming in, and we are seeing it now coming up at the Mount Kenya region. UDA party is being sponsored by William Ruto, who comes from the Rift Valley part of Kenya. And Jubilee is being sponsored by the head of state, who comes from the central part of Kenya. But you can see the heat that is there. It is actually showing that there is a very tight competition. So here is the concern that a number of people are yet to understand. This happening, is it because of William Ruto's aggressiveness? One. Two, is it that the people from the Mount Kenya part region are actually now moving to a way of showing Kenya that this is a way anybody who convinces us can be voted to? Three, is it a way of maybe punishing the head of state and Raila Odinga, as some of the people are actually claiming? What is happening, especially with the shift, the paradigm shift in the political situation in the mountain part of Kenya?
Yes, my brother, let me start by giving you a little bit understanding of what is happening in the mountain. The mountain has gotten to a dead end, and they are coming to terms with the reality that today there would be, in coming 2022 election, there will be no a presidential candidate that will be can be voted across the board. So they have reached a level that they think they are looking for how best can we be able to have our interests catered for. But there is also something that is happening. Even for all those years, there is a two-sect, the elite and the local, the common. But the common are waking up. That they are also thinking that we've listened, because always, every single time, they will be told one of our own. And then they will go back and get inside and say that let's vote. But they are getting to a level that is one of their own is no longer. Because today, as we speak, there is no a candidate from the mountain that can be voted in the country as a presidential candidate.
What informs your conclusion? Or
what forms my conclusion? This is what is happening. We have had the region, like for instance, from 2002 to 2007. We had a candidate, a president from the mountain, and they picked up immediately 2013 to right now. We are headed to 2022. They have a president from the mountain, which at this particular time they have deputies from other regions. But actually, as with things to speak, there was no one who has been groomed to pick up the leadership. That is why there is a rankles. There is a team that is led by the Kirinyaga governor and the former governor Kiambu. There is another team that is also led by the Moses Kuria, and who also think that it's now time for them to have their voices to be heard. That is why they are bringing a lot of commotion in the region. But I want to tell you, there is also aggressiveness of the DP, which of course, and is also appealing to a bigger number of the region constituents, which is the young people who are also on the base of the pyramid in terms of economical empowerment. Which is really waking up their eager that, hey, Kube, there is something here. We can also have a leadership that we call our own.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kokesh. We shall be coming that. Before we lose the momentum of that part, we'll also wish to get from Philip. Sasa, we'll come back to you when you come from the break. Three things here. Is it the aggressiveness of the deputy president? Is it the revenge to Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister and the President? Or is it that the people are showing the way that if Philip comes here and convinces us, wherever he comes from, we shall support him?
First, to talk about, you've mentioned Jubilee, but for me to talk about Jubilee as a living, functional party would be akin to engaging in political necromancy, because Jubilee is gone. I think what we have is just a few individuals who are trying to hang on to the corpse that was known as Jubilee. And that said, what is happening in Mount Kenya? First, I must also mention that I think of the friends I have from Mount Kenya, these are very sensible people. But there is a narrative that we have seen going across from people within Mount Kenya saying, you know, Mount Kenya people cannot be bought, they can only be rented. When they coalesce around one individual, they will do that wholesomely without even thinking about whether that person is good or not. While that might have some sense of truth, that is to really underestimate the capacity of the people from Mount Kenya. But what is happening is, one, the failure of Uhuru Kenyatta to provide leadership within Mount Kenya. He's facing this aggression because he's sort of people have sort of rejected him. He's not admitting it. He has not come to terms with it, but people have rejected him on the ground. That, coupled with what my brother has mentioned, that William Ruto is very aggressive. He has been making inroads within Mount Kenya, and he has the support of the people. And the people at the grassroots are now going against the business interests that have established themselves within Mount Kenya, and which have benefited right from the time we got independence at the expense of the common mwananchi in Mount Kenya.
Thank you, Philip. We go for a quick commercial break. As we return, we'll continue looking into the number of players in this election that is 12 months away from now. Mr. Philip Mwangale, Mr. Amos Kokech, and also Mr. Frederick Sasia are with us in studio, trying to offer solutions, trying to offer their insights on what is the best way forward, that even though the election is coming to Kenya, it will never leave the country divided, but it will leave the country as one. Keep it here on Power Brief on CAC TV. PCA Sarah High School is a Christian boys boarding school located in Mashuru, 20 kilometers from Emali along Emali-Oloitoktok Tarmac Road. We offer solid quality education through our well-trained and qualified teaching staff. We equip our students to develop into effective young adults and world citizens. PCA Sarah School is a rapidly growing school and is proud to be taking excellent students to university. PCA Sarah High School integrates co-curriculum activities such as drama and sports that students perform well, especially during inter-school competitions. Welcome to PCA Sarah Boys High School, and let us enrich your son with outstanding academic abilities. We're accepting admissions for Forms 1, 2 and 3. Get in touch with us today on 0721 461857 or 0714848630. PCA Sarah School, excelling in knowledge and character.
PCA Shalom Model Academy is a faith-based day school which is anchored on Christian principles. Currently, our classes are running from playgroup PP1 up to class 6. From July this year, we shall have class 7, and next year, May, we shall have our first candidate class. We nurture a holistic child, that is physically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. Our school has the best facilities to be able to implement the competency-based curriculum and the 844 system of education.
We offer education that provides opportunities for the learner to develop to the full potential. We promote acquisition of values geared toward developing a self-disciplined and ethical citizens. We provide inclusive and equitable access to quality and differentiated education, including learners with special and educational needs and disabilities.
We train kids in games such as volleyball, football, netball, geomax, and mini more. We also train kids in clubs such as French Club, Scouts Club, Music Club, and Drama Club.
Our pupils within Kabete, Kikuyu, and its environs are facilitated with school transport that is well coordinated by our very able team. Our interviews are ongoing for all classes at an affordable fee. We are giving a good offer on fee payment for those ones joining class 7 this July.
We are very proud to be affiliated to PCEA Shalom Model Academy, Zambezi.
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us here on Power Brief tonight on CAT TV. It is a good night where we are talking about drums and trumpets of an election. Today we are having a by-election happening at Muguga Ward and also Kiambaa constituency in Kiambu County. And tonight our panelists on the show are helping us to understand that even though the discussions is about politics, the year 2022, divisions, propaganda, and everything that surrounds these politics, but what is it that is the best approaches towards seeing that Kenya remains one even after the 9th of August, the year 2022? Gentlemen, we went for a break when we were talking about something that is being viewed as a paradigm shift in politics. Kokesh had made his submission, and also Mr. Philip. Briefly, Mr. Sasia, before we move to another thing. What really informs this thing? Is it giving hope that in future anybody can be elected by anybody from anywhere, depending on how you convince people that this tag of Kingpin must have said it is Kokesh, it is Mwangale, so that you're elected, inaenda kuwa man to man?
You know, my submission is that our politics are not guided by principle and ideology. Because you look at what we are calling a paradigm shift in Mount Kenya, and you fail to understand what is the ideology. You know, what informs the shift? Actually, if you look at it very well, you realize it is hate and not actually the ideology. Because the Mount Kenya people are supporting William Ruto out of the hate they have for the current president and the former prime minister. It is not because William Ruto sold a nice idea to them and they feel it is a nice idea. And there is where we go wrong. Because we need to have a politics where we go for the ideology and we go for leaders who we feel that whatever they are selling is what we need. But when we vote with the emotions, you fail to vote the right people. So this country, over other elections, we've been voting based on emotions and failing to capture the real things that are supposed to build or that are supposed to guide our voting. And you know, that goes back to how we form our political parties and coalitions. What informs this group of people to come together to form a party or a coalition? You find that they form that to win an election. They don't form based on the ideology they have for the country. If at all we were basing our formations on ideology, then who would imagine that Jubilee, a party that you are told had brought together several parties with a plan of over 30 years in ruling this country, but right now we are seeing Jubilee as become a village party, and you know, you find Jubilee is not even in the picture in the first place. We now have UDA, and probably the other team, we are going to find another new party. So let us now change actually our minds and what informs our coming together. If we can have a system whereby our politicians can form two strong parties that are guided by principle, that if I don't agree with the principle of this party, then I move to the other party which I agree with the principle, but I don't go and form another party that I come up with a fake narrative, or rather a different narrative that I feel now is selling to the people. One. Two, let us now start selling an ideology that buys into the prosperity of the country, and not selling an ideology that buys into the emotions of the people. You know, when you buy into the emotions of the people, the decision is always wrong. But if you buy to the sober mind and the sober decision of the people, then you are able to find the people making the right decision. And this is the reason to why over years we've had the wrong people being elected as leaders, because we tend to go to elections guided not by ideology, but we are guided by the utterances, which in most cases, you know, they are not really utterances that are geared towards the country. For example, look at what UDA and the other group, the Raila group and Huru group, are speaking about. Nobody's speaking about the ideology. Everyone is speaking about attacking the other one. Then you keep wondering, who is now coming to save this country from the utterances? Who is going to come to save this country from these fake political narratives? We find ourselves in a very worrying situation unless we, the electorate, with the people who decides, now change and decide now to form the ideology that leads to who are we going to elect.
Thank you, Frederick. Now, there is a constituency of crucial players when it comes to elections and also the projections of the year 2022. Just on a quick finding of the study that we actually tried to do regarding the youth and politics. IBC is projecting that the number of young people will be eligible to vote by next year. They're projecting to register 4 million youth. However, there are things here that has actually raised eyebrows of many players in this. One, the youth are admitting that the political class has messed them and they are disoriented by the politicians. Talk of high unemployment rate, talk of policies that they're viewing them that it's not factoring their needs. Two, youth are saying that the politics is overhyped for no reason. That there are so many hyping, which I think Mr. Sasi has mentioned it briefly. And also, they are talking of, they are reluctant to queue and vote. Sasa kupanga line ndefu hiyo kuvote, they are saying that one is like putting in a lot of efforts again for nothing that helps them. They are also talking of, these are people who access internet and can mobilize. But again, the issue here, look at 4 million people who are probably having another 50 years to live here on earth and are not going to contribute towards electing or having a voice on who becomes the leaders. Philip, beginning from you, first, do we admit that as a political class, we have disappointed the youth constituents in this country?
You know, you've said we.
We, not me now. You, because you're the leaders now.
Yeah, but let me say this. I think for the youth in Kenya to say they have been disappointed by politicians can only be 10% true. For the reason that saying that is taking away the responsibility of the failure that we are having away from where it should lie. And if you have the power to vote in a leader, you have the power to keep that leader accountable when they get into office, and then don't use that power at all and come back and say these people have disappointed us, so we will not vote, so we will not participate in governance, then it's like saying you have no part to play at all. Yet I think we have all the responsibility that can be assigned to the youth in this country. And in the continent generally. Mine would be this, that we have had youth being used by politicians, that is true, but we have also had youth accepting to be used by politicians, because no one holds a gun to a young person's head and tells them, accept my alcohol or I blow your brains out. Engage in goonism and hooliganism or I'll kill you. No. We have been doing these things conscientiously. We have been agreeing to be used as pawns in the political space for a very long period of time, knowingly. We have not been induced. No one, did anything to induce us. We actually decided to be used. So we must first begin by taking responsibility of the situation that we are in. Number two, we must also decide to change, because just saying that politicians have wasted us is not enough. We must decide to do something about it. Number three, and this is very important. For the youth to say that, the government should do something about the youth, the government, politicians should do something about the youth, for me, I find that very defeatist. Because we must not be looking at the affairs of youth only. We must be looking at the health of this country. And by doing that, incidentally, as we look at the affairs of this country, the affairs of the young person will be catered for. But if we say we are championing the affairs of the youth, after we get out of that youth bracket, when a majority of those people get beyond 35, then they will be championing for the affairs of the aged. We must look at the affairs of this country wholesomely, and that is why politicians have been getting this loophole, because youth are after their own interests. We want to look at the employment of youth alone. Yes, youth constitute a large chunk of the population of this country, but we need patriots. We need active citizens in that group called young people, not just championing the affairs of young people. Young people need employment, young people need this, they need to be involved, and young people themselves are not doing those things that they have the power to do. So if the young person is not a patriot, then please don't complain about this country. If you're not an active citizen, and this might hurt so many people, if you're not an active citizen, if you're not willing to participate in the voting exercise and voting good leaders, don't complain. Just swallow your pill and let the people who are active citizens do what they're supposed to do. But my plea would be that all youth need to arise and be patriots.
Thank you, Philip. Kokech, still on the same issue about the youth. The current generation of the youth is a bit blessed, or more blessed, with the coming of the new digital age. That is, they're able to even see what we're discussing here tonight. They're able to know what is happening in Kiambaa, Muguga. They're able to know what is happening in Mtwapa. They're able even to know what is happening in Busia and in so many places. So, in summary or briefly also, what are your submissions towards the youth using these spaces and the privileges that are with them to see that they contribute positively towards bettering their position, especially when it comes to leadership? Do they use this to mobilize, maybe as he has talked of hooliganism, or do they talk now and use it as a positive energy?
Thank you, my brother. Allow me just to make a brief comment on your findings. That I want to tell you that I 50% agree with the finding.
Only 50?
Only 50. On the fact that the hills that they've mentioned have happened to them, actually have happened to them. But now the complaint part of it, I 100% agree with my brother Philip here, that we have allowed that to happen to us. Actually, I'm a politician and a young politician, and I've seen a number of politicians, political players coming, mobilizing us to go and do something, actually without necessarily even having a conscience of asking, why have I been told to go and do this? And when after political circle, after we have done that and a political circle completes, it's over, collection is over, then we are left at that particular place. So young people must rise up. Two, on the issue of social media, I know you're frequent and you're a young person, you visit social media. Actually, if you look at it, you'll never find a young person busy doing a constructive on a social media. And if you look at it, more so when it comes to political period or electioneering period, you'll realize a lot that you'll meet is hate speech, mobilization against each other, or the abuses that are spread. So those are the things that we are good at young people. So I think it's high time young people need to be able to rethink about the future, because that future is for them. Because even the people that we elect, some of them we elect even the oldest people, and some of them die and leave us with the poverty and the problem that we have. So the social media is there, and there are many nations that have used, young people have used social media most appropriately, and they brought changes to those countries. But again, coming to Kenya, it's a platform that the best thing you can find there is people dancing, people doing their own things, but actually making a constructive ideas of how best we can be able to mobilize ourselves, so that, because young people can vote, they are fellow young people to take up leadership. But even the most painful, even the ones that have been given positions have failed the same young people.
Thank you, Kokech. Now, Sasia, as we come to the end of that issue of the youth and politics, the reason as to why Power Brief is here tonight, first, is to admit that as a society we have challenges, and then two, is to find best possible approaches towards addressing those problems. Here, all of us have admitted that indeed there is a problem, And most of these youth came and just found that these problems are already existing. Now, what do we do to turn around their attitudes? Because at the end of it all, we can't, yes, they have a trouble, they have weaknesses, they have shortcomings, but they say man is a product of the society that is found in. So if our youth have been found in such a troubles that is not being exhibited in other places, it simply means that this is what we've offered them as a society. In summary, how do we lead them now to change their ways? Because if they realize that we are pushing them, then they'll start push and back, and we might not really help any other.
When you started about the youth, you said 64% of the Kenyan population is made up of people we call youth. And going by the majority principle, a solution comes from the majority. Whether through voting or decision making, then it comes from the majority. I keep asking myself, who is this to change us? You know, you cannot expect any other person to come and change me. I am the person to change. So the solution to the kind of problem the youth are facing is basically lying with the youth. Let us just rethink, because we have a population which has gone to school. You know, as opposed to the older days where we had youth who are not going to school. Right now, out of the 64%, maybe approximately 40 to 45% have gone to school. Then what do you go to school? You just don't go to school to acquire grades. You also go to school to acquire knowledge. Knowledge about other things other than the profession you are pursuing. So I want to inform all the youths who are following us, and even on social media. Let us have this time that we think about ourselves. You know, we are not only focusing about tomorrow, because we are youth right now, we're also focusing about today. Because the decisions and the mistakes we do today will decide or rather affect the tomorrow we are going to have. So a youth population that keeps saying that I don't love politics, I don't want to involve myself in politics, yet everything, including economy, the jobs we are crying about, the education, is all about politics. What else comes to this society that does not really associate itself with politics? So you keep saying you don't want to involve yourself in politics, then you better stop complaining. Then second, let us be the people now going for the solution. If we feel the people we are calling politicians are wrong, then let us be the people to elect the right people. If you feel a youth can lead better, let us come together and elect that youth that we feel can lead better. Then there's something Philip said. We are not only talking about the youth. Let us speak about the matter that affect the entire society, because in finding the solutions for the society, then you find solutions for the youth. When you solve matters of economic struggles and the rest, then the youth are part of the population that will feel relieved out of the growth of the economy. So let us not really champion more about youth, so that we've made our politicians now, in every legislation, they preserve 2 or 3 positions for the youth. Then we keep celebrating that we've won. What have we won when we have only 3 positions preserved for the youth?
So it's a wake-up call that let everybody stand for what is right. Thank you, Mr. Sasia. Now, at the home stretch, there is a thing here. This is a requirement of civil servants still on the drums and trumpets of elections. The requirements of civil servants resigning 6 months to the polls, that is if you're vying. That act was there, but in the year 2017, some civil servants who are actually attached somewhere in Kericho and also in Embu moved to the High Court. And by then, the People's Chief Justice, the one you gave him the name of the People's Chief Justice, Justice Marete Njagi, he quashed that decision, actually, that act, that there's no need for someone to leave office 6 months to the election, but they can only leave office upon being nominated to vie for a position. And the same topic is coming here, where Sasia feels Philip is a commissioner in a government agency. Then you're doing your own businesses wherever you're doing it. Philip is moving with a vehicle, with a bodyguard, and all the privileges. Then you're vying in the same constituency. Then you're saying, now, how does it work? But kuna huo mjadala unaendelea, civil servants who are vying, they're saying wacha tuendelee mpaka mwisho. Those ones who are not civil servants are saying retire 6 months earlier so that it's fair. Will this promote fairness if they allow them to retire 6 months earlier, ama waende na hiyo decision of Justice Njagi?
I think in my view, the 6 months was okay. for the reason that you mentioned, that there is the temptation to use public resources to campaign, because we understand what campaigning means in this country. That you go to a certain place, say you have done this because you're in this office. I was a cabinet secretary, or I was a county commissioner, so nili make sure nimeleta president hapa amejenga barabara and what not, and using that as a footstool of campaigning is misusing public resources. So there was wisdom in us saying that public servants should resign 6 months prior to elections, because I think we have seen, and we still see it, and again, in as much as we have laws in place, we still see public servants, public officials engaging in campaigns using public resources. I've seen county commissioners, who want to be governors, using their powers and the resources they have been granted, doing campaigns across the country. I've seen permanent secretaries, and we have examples of so many of them who are campaigning using their public office as the platform, which is very wrong, and that goes into inducing voters, because you're inducing them. You want voters to think that you have been doing those things just because you have some certain political nerve within you, but the reality of the matter is that those things were being done at the behest of public office.
Thank you, Philip. Time has really caught up with us, but your admission is at 6 months earlier, then you have to resign.
If it were up to me, even 1 year would be okay.
Thank you very much. This seems not to have gotten well with Mr. Kokech. Anasema mimi paka nisukume paka mwisho. In summary, do you think they resign earlier ama waende paka 6 months? In 20 seconds, my brother.
I want to agree with my brother, Philip. That law was to provide a level playing field. And we have a country that, it pains my heart that we have a country that is prone of abusing the good laws that we have. We have the best laws in the world, but we abuse them with no remorse at all. As he mentioned, actually we've had our public officers abusing the privileges that they have to lure voters. So for me, I really think that allowing these people to resign 6 months before the election, I think is a good thing, and I support it.
Thank you very much. In summary, Mr. Sasia, do they go home 6 months early or even 1 year early, as Wakili has just hinted?
For me, it's a different opinion. One, as a civil servant, I would take the idea that they stop involving themselves in politics completely as long as they still hold the position they're holding. So at the moment I mentioned,
it's not even about 6 months.
Not 6 months.
If you mention it, if for instance, you are appointed in 2022 August, somewhere in not August, in September,
you stop being a politician.
Okay, you've been appointed, then you're not supposed to talk about politics or even to...
Yes, my opinion in it is that once you are appointed to be a civil servant, then you stop becoming a politician by practice and by speech. So the moment I involve myself in politics, that is the moment I should quit the office. Not actually, the 6 months is okay, yes, but for those who are disciplined. For those who lose discipline, they let them quit the moment they mention anything to do with vying for a political position.
Many thanks, Mr. Frederick Sasia. That has been a very wonderful conversation here tonight, as we've been looking at the drums and trumpets of an election, especially this by-election and also the general election that is coming next year in the next 12 months. Our guests, that is Mr. Philip Mwangale, Mr. Amos Kokech, and also Mr. Frederick Sasia, have given their submission highlighting the problems, pointing them out, and also probable solutions. Power Brief is here just to admit that as a society, we can make it together when we come together and contribute ideas positively towards causing transformation. From me, Cornelius Omuse, I appreciate your comments and feedback on our social media platforms. Till next Thursday, God willing, I wish you a very good night, and remember our national mantra: peace, love, and unity. Have a very good night. Hi guys.